Good morning, YouTube. Boy, Humble Warrior coming back at you another video. I actually was sitting here listening to Dougie Do Wrong and the Big O Show. I ain't listened to the whole thing, but I listened to enough to where I really didn't want to hear anything else from Big O today. I'm starting to understand to me he's kind of biased because the first 3 weeks of the season he's basically praising Mike McDaniel and the offense and blah blah and this, that, and the third, and how he's, paraphrasing, but how he's basically helping Tua and doing this and doing that, and the offensive numbers they were putting up. And he was giving, kudos to the offense and how well they're performing and stuff like that. Now all of a sudden, after the Buffalo Bill game, we saw the same crap that we saw last year, and it's happening again this year, and blah blah and blah blah. First of all, sir, the offense has actually evolved since last season. But it is year 2 and it's 4 games to the season. All of a sudden now people are jumping off the damn cliff. He's one of them. He was criticizing Vic Fangio for his defensive performance against Buffalo. Now, this is the same defense that gave up 34 against the Chargers. They also turned around the next week against the Patriots and gave up only 10. No, they gave up 17. Then against the Broncos, they gave up 13. So they improved from the Patriots to the Broncos, which, apples to oranges. Both of the offenses suck. But your defense is supposed to suffocate them, which is what we did. We did our job. We didn't let them put up 30 and 40 on us back-to-back weeks. So you go against a high-powered offense like Buffalo's, which to me is not that high-powered. The only X factor on that team is Diggs. Outside of that, you got Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, and a subpar, at best, disappearing act of a running game. We let Diggs do what the hell he wanted to do because they put Kader Kohou on him. That is the fault of Vic Fangio. He should have after the first series, X should have been on Diggs the rest of the game, making them work. Instead, Diggs was working Kader Kohou. And what happened? We ended up getting 48 dropped on our head. But for Big O to say, Josh Boyer did a much better job than Vic in the first 4 games last year. Josh Boyer was a beneficiary of the fact that Brian Flores had a defensive system installed that he perfected himself on getting the personnel that he wanted for his defensive scheme. Hence, Josh Boyer was the person that actually called those plays last year where our defense was doing, cover zero blitz on the goal line, giving up touchdowns. But hey, I got to go back and look and see if he actually mentioned that, because I know he blasted Josh Boyer on a few of his podcast shows last year, but yet you turn around the same breath this year and say, Josh Boyer did a much better call defensively than you did, bro, and he would never give up 40-something points in the game. Well, let's be fair here. In the first game against Buffalo, they were in the extreme heat in Miami. We only gave up 19, and we scored 3 touchdowns on offense. And that was an extreme defensive game because pretty sure they had that time Xavier Howard on Stephon Diggs, which locked him up pretty much. So the player personnel matched pretty well what we did, and we had a decent pass rush that got after Josh Allen time after time in that game. Made it very uncomfortable for him. Went up to Buffalo, we lost 32 to 29, because they actually ended up coming back after the offense spotted us. I think it was 8 or 9 point lead. The defense kind of collapsed toward the end and gave the game away. But he gives the credit to Josh Boyer. Fine. But he also has, which I don't know why Dougie Do Wrong did not say, hey, Big O, respectfully, Vic don't have his guys, and he already made this clear. This off season that's coming, he's gonna make some changes to that defense. They won't be the same people there no more. We might not see Christian Wood. We might not see what's his name, Jerome Baker. We might not see not Rashard Davis. You might not see Davis. You might not see Bradley Chubb. I don't know if he's gonna keep Kader Kohou. I don't know. But some of the players on defense, you would not see them because they don't fit what Vic Fangio does. If you watch the Denver Broncos last season, they were the number 5th ranked defense in the NFL. They were smothering teams defensively. Teams were beating them nonetheless, but they were barely beating them. You wasn't blowing them out. And they damn sure didn't give up on plays either. And they made tackles, and they made deflections, and they made sacks. So it wasn't a situation where you get away from pressure and then you throw the ball to a guy that's wide open down the field. Or it's blown coverage and you give them a touchdown. That didn't happen, but because Vic Fangio got these group of guys and they're expected to go and win right now, he's getting the blame. Fine, whatever. But be logical with your assessment. Don't just come with, well, he's not Josh Boyer and blah, blah, and this is why. That's really ignorant. Because at the end of the day, Josh Boyer was not a great DC, and you know this. He was not. So don't sit here and beat up Vic because of one game. Who's to say that Vic Fangio won't get things together for the next few weeks to come when we get ready to see Philadelphia? Let's just say against the Giants, we only give up 3 points. Let's say against the Carolina Panthers, we skunked them. We don't give up nothing. And then he'll say, oh, well, that's what they're supposed to do because those are two inferior teams. Well, we get up 30 points to the Giants and 27 or 28 to Carolina, then you ready to fire Vic, right? But when he only give up 3-0, he's not getting much credit from people for that. He might, but they'll say, well, that's because the Giants and the Carolina Panthers have an inferior offense. And they do. However, that any given Sunday, a team can do anything they want to you. That's why it's called the NFL. That's why it's called any given Sunday. But I don't want Miami to overlook the Giants or the Panthers to stare at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is 3 weeks away. We got a minute before we meet them. Is that a prime time matchup game? Yes, it is. Because we have potential walking there at 5-1. Eagles might be 6-0, but we have potential going there with only one loss. And that would be one hell of a game. If we can get into Philadelphia and beat them in their own yard and give them their first loss of the season, what a monumental victory that would be for our fan base and organization. That would be dope. And then will Big O change his tone then? We go to Philadelphia, lock up their running game and lock up Jalen Hurts. And Tua put on the clinic out there, and we beat them by let's say we beat them by 10 points. What would Big O say then? What would be the storyline then? Because apparently a lot of people were already written off the Dolphins based on that performance from Sunday, which I even said there's no way you can actually say they're a legit team because they beat a terrible ass Bronco team. I was just shocked that the final score was 70. The offense put up 48 points. The backups put up the remaining, I want to say it was 22 points. The remaining 22 points went to the backups. So it wasn't like, no, I think two of them put up 50, but the remaining 20 points went to the backups. So it wasn't like he wasn't in the game in the fourth quarter, and that's another thing people pointed out. How is that a problem? He shouldn't have been in the game. They had already did enough damage. He had 4 touchdowns, 300 yards, no picks. He shouldn't even be in there. For what? To get hurt? Because that was the next step. They were going to try to hurt him. If you already up on me by 40 points plus, if I see your quarterback, I'm going to try my best to break his hip or do something to literally damage him. Because now you're insulting my intelligence as a human being and as a competitor. So now I got to take your best player out. So thankfully, Tyreek and company was on the sideline while the other people's in the game still scoring touchdowns. But it wasn't the starters. It was the backups. It was the second and third stringers out there. And they put up the remaining points that ballooned it up to 70. So people make it seem like the first unit did that. They did not. It was the backups. The backups got the number to 70. The starters fronted you almost 50. So they did their job. But digressing from that, I don't think that was cool. Big O, as a longtime Dolphin spokesperson and whatever, ambassador, whatever you want to call yourself, you should not be so quick to write off people. I mean, you ain't even giving this man a chance to try to get his scheme together to actually, make it work. All you doing is going off what you saw Sunday. And it's week after week with you. So if the Giants don't do nothing against us and the Carolina Panthers do nothing against us, he don't get credit for that. He has to get credit for locking up the Eagles running game, for locking up Kansas City, for locking up Buffalo. Now, mind you, these are ultimate playoff teams, but the regular season don't give you a whole glimpse of the playoffs, because playoffs teams play you completely different, because all they got to study is you. So whoever the Dolphins see in the playoffs, all the Dolphins are going to study is that team, and vice versa. But there's no point in beating up Vic Fangio over one game, because he wasn't beat up week 1. He wasn't beat up week 2. He wasn't beat up week 3. And we was 3-0. Winning games, but his defense was chugging along, was, pulling up the rear. But he wasn't getting, abused for that. They dropped 40, they get 48 drops on them. All of a sudden now he's the worst DC in history, or whatever you want to call it, in the league, because we get 48 points. Now the next 2 weeks, we can redeem ourselves defensively by just playing better coverages and making tackles, making sacks, causing turnovers, giving the ball back to the offense, putting up numbers. We could do this easily, but it takes one game at a time. First is the Giants, then Carolina, and then 3 weeks from now we go to Philadelphia on a primetime game. I think it's on a Sunday night, to play the Philadelphia Eagles in Lincoln Financial Stadium. Then we're gonna see what we look like. If we could beat the Eagles, we'll go to 7-1 on the season. Yeah, we'll go to 6-1. Sorry, 6-1, which would be pretty damn good. Which means that we'll be in the driver's seat of the AFC, unless Buffalo or Kansas City stay on pace with what they're doing. But that's to be determined. Anyway, guys, let me get out of here, because I go in there and see, wife and kids. But that was my spiel, man. I didn't appreciate that too much. Let me know what you think, man. Peace.